Hello friends. So today I'll be talking about this 33rd COVID update, and this is on 23rd October. So what I'll be talking in this update is actually a part 2 of the evidence for tocilizumab, because we have I'm sure some of you might have seen the part 1 of my tocilizumab talk, where we had covered a lot of observational studies and there were not that many randomized controlled trials. But now we've had a couple of randomized controlled trials, at least four randomized controlled trials that have come recently. So this has again put a spotlight on this molecule of tocilizumab, whether this has any role. So the conclusions that we had made around a couple of months back when we reviewed this topic was predominantly there were observational studies which were favoring the usage of tocilizumab having favorable benefit in COVID. And then we were awaiting the randomized controlled trials, and a couple of randomized controlled trials that had come earlier on had not shown the benefit in influencing any good favorable outcome. So after this, there were multiple other randomized controlled trials that were happening. Some of them were sponsored by the Roche itself, like Impacta study or Covacta study. So we will just go through what is the current evidence, because I've tried to cover two key articles which came just around a couple of days back before this lecture. So this was an article which came on 21st October 2020. It came in NEJM. So it was a multicentric trial, the title of which is Efficacy of Tocilizumab in Patients Hospitalized with COVID-19. So this particular study was done in US hospitals around the Boston area. So the background of this study is in USA, obviously we understand that the maximum number of cases is in US followed by India, around 7 million cases, and there are 1,000 deaths happening literally every day when the writing for this article was happening. And as of 13th October, they had around 214,000 deaths in US with COVID. And we know that it has more than 7 million cases until this point of time. So given the huge burden of this disease and having a huge impact on causing a lot more deaths, so it is about time to recognize whether any of these molecules which have been extensively used has any role. So the hypothesis of this study was, because we understand that tocilizumab is an IL-6 receptor antagonist. So increased IL-6 levels in COVID is associated with a lot of deleterious effects. So one of them is, it is sort of a reference that increased IL-6 level is associated with higher viremia in the blood. So you have more IL-6, it is indicative of higher virus or viral load within the blood or higher viremia, and it is associated with increased viral shredding. So that is a correlation that has been recognized in one of the study. And increased IL-6 levels was associated with progression to someone needing mechanical ventilation. So it can lead to worsening of respiratory failure, and it may be an indicator that patients may not do well from respiratory point of view. And increased IL-6 had a correlation with influencing the mortality as well. So these are some of the thought processes that we have in correlation IL-6 levels with the certain outcome indicators. So this particular study is a double-blind placebo randomized controlled trial, and here the inclusion criteria was all the patients with SARS-CoV-2 infection who had temperature more than 38 degrees centigrade and who had radiological infiltrates. So, and then who are on oxygen. So these were the criteria for this particular study. So they took sick patients who were needing oxygen, who had lung infiltrates on imaging, and who had temperature of more than 38 degree. And the tocilizumab they used at a dose of 8 milligram per kg as a single dose. So the primary outcome they looked at after having randomized and administering tocilizumab to the number of patients who ultimately died and who went on to need intubation. Either of them they took it as a primary endpoint or primary outcome. The secondary outcome was they looked at patients who continued to worsen clinically, and they looked at patients who were weaned off oxygen or discontinuation of supplemental oxygen was taken as a secondary outcome. So these were the outcome variables this study looked into. So they had 243 patients in this particular study. The male is to female. See, we have been seeing time and again since the beginning of this pandemic that this virus has a predilection to affecting more males, and so is the case even today. Males were more commonly affected. 58% of the males were part of the study, and 42% constituted the females. The median age of the patients randomized into the study was 59.8 years. So this was the results. So when you compare tocilizumab and placebo, the primary outcome, which was the death or going on to needing intubation, the hazard ratio they looked at was 0.83, and 95% confidence interval was 0.38 to 1.81, and that was not statistically significant between tocilizumab and the placebo group. And they looked at day 14 disease worsening, which was the secondary outcome. They looked at the clinical worsening and time for discontinuing the supplemental oxygen. So day 14 disease worsening, as you see, the hazard ratio was 1.11, and that was also not statistically significant. So disease worsening happened in 18% of the patients who were on tocilizumab, as compared to 14.9% of the patients who were on placebo, and that was also not statistically significant. So the median duration for discontinuation of oxygen was 5 days in tocilizumab group and 4.9 days in the placebo group. So even that was not significant. So you would have expected, had this drug worked, that the duration for discontinuation of oxygen should have been much earlier. So which did not happen. And day 14 oxygen requirement was 24.6% in tocilizumab group and 21.2% in the placebo group. So they did not have any statistical significance with regards to the primary outcome, which was death and intubation. And secondary outcome was clinical worsening and discontinuing of oxygenation. So that also did not achieve statistical significance. And what was very surprising in this particular study was our previous studies, all the observational studies showed that the risk of infection is very high when in a tocilizumab group as compared to the other groups. But here it was completely opposite. The risk of infection was found to be less in tocilizumab. This is a very striking finding which authors are also unable to explain what may be the possible reason. So risk of infection was in fact less, 8.1% in tocilizumab group compared to 17.1% in placebo, and that was even statistically significant. So when you do the substratification of these primary outcome indices, which was intubation and death, so 27 patients of 243 went on to either died or they needed intubation and mechanical ventilation. 17 were in tocilizumab group and 10 were in the placebo group. And out of these 17, 11 were intubated, and out of 10, 8 were intubated, and the deaths were 6 in tocilizumab group and 2 in the placebo group. So this was the primary outcome sort of a stratification. And duration of mechanical ventilation between tocilizumab and placebo, it was 15 days in tocilizumab and 27.9 days in the placebo group. So they did a subgroup analysis to look at the indicators for severe progression of the disease. So the patients who are at a greater risk of progression to intubation, and they found age more than 65 years had an important bearing or a correlation to disease progression, to needing intubation and death, and the hazard ratio was 3.11 and it was statistically significant. And they looked at IL-6 levels. So this is also very important. So if you recall my first talk, we had even debated whether IL-6 levels are high at all to be targeted, and there were studies which really looked at least 40-fold, 40 to 50-fold higher IL-6 levels to justify usage of tocilizumab. But here if you see, they have taken IL-6 of around 30 to 40 as the levels where they have administered this tocilizumab, and IL-6 more than 40 had a correlation with progression of the disease to intubation and death, and hazard ratio is 3.06. So higher IL-6 levels does indicate that it may portend a poorer outcome and disease progression. So this was the subgroup analysis. And another adverse events they found was neutropenia was very significant in tocilizumab. See, 22 patients had in tocilizumab group had neutropenia as compared to 1 in placebo, and that was also statistically significant. So the conclusions authors made was tocilizumab was not effective in preventing our primary outcome they looked at, progressing to intubation or death. So that was the author's conclusion. And so this was the interleukin level I want you to pay attention to. See, we had made a remark in the previous sort of a previous presentation that I had made that IL-6 levels in conventional ARDS itself is very, very high. It is up to 50 to 100 fold higher. And it was debated that in COVID ARDS that IL-6 levels do not reach such high levels as it would reach in conventional ARDS, and targeting this IL-6 whether it is justified is what was even discussed. But if you see here, the median IL-6 levels is very low, 23.6 and 25, which is possibly 5 times higher than the baseline. I mean 5 times the normal, or 5 to 6 times the normal. And as you saw that tocilizumab may not benefit if you target this low IL-6, and you saw in the previous slide that IL-6 more than 40 was associated with disease progression. So again, it goes on to show that maybe IL-6 levels may be a marker in identifying patients where this may not be beneficial, because IL-6 levels were low in tocilizumab group, 23.6 and 25.4 in placebo, and the median was 24.4, so which is not a very high levels. So this was the Kaplan-Meier curves for mechanical ventilation or death, which is a primary. So the blue one is tocilizumab, red is placebo. As you see, there's hardly any difference. And this is the secondary outcome where they looked at discontinuation of supplemental oxygen. Again, blue is tocilizumab and red is placebo. You see, there's hardly any difference with regards to the either of them. And so this is the table just shows the median duration of receipt of supplemental oxygen, which was 4 days in tocilizumab, and so there was no difference with regards to weaning of oxygen. And median duration of mechanical ventilation, as you say, I think I showed you in the previous slide also, it was 15 and 27.9. And admission to ICU or death percentage was 15.9 and 15.8 in the placebo group. So this was the table. This is a serious adverse events table. As you see, the infection risk, if you see here, the first row, it was much less, 13 or 8.1% compared to 17.1%. That was statistically significant. And neutropenia, I said, was more. It was around 13.7% compared to 1.2%. That was statistically significant in tocilizumab group. So that's about the NEJM study. So following this, so this particular article came in JAMA. So this really reviews into all this newer evidence that has evolved from the randomized control trial, and it tends to dissect it out. This came, as you see, on 20th October 2020 in JAMA Internal Medicine. Time to reassess tocilizumab's role in COVID-19. So the background of this is there are literally more than 60,000 COVID-19 publications that have come until now, October from possibly January. And in tocilizumab, there has been no randomized controlled trials which have shown significant 28 or 30-day mortality benefit with the usage of any of the tocilizumab drug. And this was the one study which came, this was more of a observational study which came from a US, which was a large sort of an observational database study called Stop COVID Tocilizumab study. So which showed the time to death was significantly reduced in the group which got tocilizumab. And there was reduction of risk of death at day 30, but this was not a randomized control trial. This was a large observational sort of a study that happened. We showed that risk of death was reduced at day 30 in the tocilizumab group, and the time to death duration also was reduced. But they had a lot of confounders in this study. The residual confounders they found was tocilizumab predominantly had younger age group, and they had lower comorbidities. So that would possibly explain the reduction in the death that happened when they compared. So they were not matched variables between the group which did not get and the group which got. So that was the confounders. And this was the study characteristics of this Stop COVID. So this was done in USA, as you see, and they had included 68 sites, and they had studied 3,924 patients in total, of which 433 had received tocilizumab. And 28 to 30 day mortality was 27.5% in tocilizumab and 37.1% in the other group, and that was statistically significant. So this was the basis. This was a big study which created, and there was another Italian study. If you recall my presentation in the previous tocilizumab narrative, so there was a Guraldi study from Italy. That was also a large observational study, which again showed benefit in the group which had got tocilizumab. So as I said, all the observational studies showed benefit with the use of tocilizumab, and the randomized control trials fails to demonstrate that effect, which you saw in that NEJM paper also. Then this particular study came very recently in again JAMA, which is by Salvorani et al., which was RCT tocilizumab COVID-19 study. This was again a multi-site. It was a randomized trial, but there was no blinding that happened, and there was no placebo arm in this study. And interestingly, this particular study, although it was a quasi randomized study with no placebo and no blinding, the mortality in these patients who were a part of the study was only 2.4%. But when the case fatality rate of the Italy itself is sitting at 13.2%, showing a mortality in the study of 2.4 strongly suggested bias and exclusion of a lot of patients who would have identified as possibly having negative outcome. So that was the limitations of this particular study. And 14 out of 60 in the even usual group had got tocilizumab as a life-saving measure. So this was another fallacy of this particular study. So this was the details of the study. So this study was done in Italy in 24 sort of hospitals, 126 patients, and out of which 60 had got tocilizumab. And as you see, the 28 or 30-day mortality difference was 3.3% in tocilizumab versus 1.6 in the comparator group, and that was not statistically significant. So it was a negative study, and it had limitations because the overall mortality in the study was very less when the whole country's case fatality rate was sitting at 13 point, indicating there were biases existent, and they had a lot of patients were excluded from the study. So that was the limitation of this particular randomized trial by Salvorani et al. Then there was a French study also which came in Lancet called Corimono 19 study. This was also a multi-site. Again, it is similar to Salvorani study. There was no blinding, there was no placebo in this randomized controlled trial. And here, see, if you they took patients who were less sicker, because none of these patients in this study were on HFNO or NIV or intermittent mechanical. So because we would ordinarily consider the patients who are on HFNO, who are on NIV or intubated as more sicker, who may benefit from this. So they had taken less sicker patients, and 28-day mortality was 11.5% in this particular, and they had used different statistics. They had used Bayesian statistical method to do their analysis, and here they found a positive outcome, improved outcome in patients receiving tocilizumab at day 14 is what they identified. So this was the details of the study, Corimono study. So they had 9 sites in France. Again, there was no placebo, it was not blinded, and 131 randomized between tocilizumab and placebo group, and 63 had received placebo, and here also they had got dosage, only single dose they had got, and the difference of 28-day mortality was 11.1 in tocilizumab versus 11.9 in the control group, and it tended towards a statistical significance. And but as I said, there were limitations in this study because they had not taken sicker patients. And this was the Kaplan-Meier curves. So the red one, it is the survival curves. This is the tocilizumab, higher survival compared to no tocilizumab. Then came these Roche funded trials called Covacta and Impacta trial. And Covacta trial failed to achieve predefined effective threshold, and day 28 there was no mortality difference between the tocilizumab and the control group. And what they showed was the tocilizumab group had reduced hospital length of stay. The Impacta study, so the Covacta study was done predominantly in North America, Canada, and few of the European countries. Impacta study was done including African countries. South Africa was part and Latin America was part of it. So Impacta was a positive study. It did show reduction in mechanical ventilation in patients who were receiving tocilizumab, and it did show reduction in day 28 deaths. And this was the details of Covacta. So if you see Covacta study, they had 67. So this was funded by Roche. So and the countries that were all the Western European countries and the North America. It had UK, US, Canada, Denmark, and number of tocilizumab treated was 225. Total number was 450, and the 28 or 30-day mortality was 19.7% in the tocilizumab group and 19.4. So there was no statistical significance. And this is the Impacta study, which again, as you see, it was done in Latin America, Brazil, Kenya, South Africa, Peru, and Mexico, predominantly Latin. And this showed a positive benefit. 10.4% was the mortality in tocilizumab versus 8.6%, and there was an absolute risk difference of 2%. So that was the positive aspect of this Impacta study. So these were some of the recently conducted trials. So as you see, if you recall what we had reviewed all the observational studies earlier, and all observational studies were hinting towards huge benefit with tocilizumab. But now you are seeing this NEJM randomized control trial, which was done in the Boston area and Massachusetts General Hospital. So you see there was absolutely no difference with the use of tocilizumab. And this was followed by Salvorani trial, which came from the Spanish group. And there also you saw that there was no difference with regards to the benefit of tocilizumab. And this was preceded by those two other trials which were not fully randomized, which did not have a placebo control, where they failed to demonstrate. And this Roche funded study also sort of is a equipoise, not strongly uh, hinting towards a signal of benefit with tocilizumab. So all in all, to conclude, so the evidence for tocilizumab at this point of time, because any practice changing a sort of a adoption that we need to do has to be based out of these randomized controlled trials. Now with the current prevailing evidence from these randomized controlled trials, and more so the NEJM article which you just saw and the Salvorini trial, and including the Lancet trial, which is this Corimuno trial. So none of them, and even the previous one, which is this, the Salvorini trial. So none of them have been convincing enough to tell us that tocilizumab will make a difference with regards to the primary outcome, which would be the deaths or disease progression. So thank you very much. So I would end my talk with this nice quote. So the black sheep is sometimes the only one telling the truth. So now we possibly seem to be having the truth that is coming out from these randomized controlled trials, and our overwhelming usage of tocilizumab in patients who may not really benefit should is something that every listener should ponder about. So thank you all.